Carl Edgerton was found face down on the Capitol steps, Leah Moore was shot twice in her own kitchen, and James Holloway was marked for death in a chilling email. 3 Minnesota lawmakers, 3 lives entwined in a deadly web of political revenge. As investigators peeled back layers of encrypted messages, fake identities, and a forgotten whistleblower named Alicia Trent, they uncovered a truth more terrifying than anyone imagined. The attacks weren't random, they were part of a calculated mission to bring down the very system they once served. It was an unusually cold morning in early February when the serenity of the Minnesota state capitol was shattered. At precisely 7:15 a.m., a sharp crack of gunfire echoed through the stone corridors, startling the few maintenance workers already inside. The sound bounced off the marble walls, distant yet unmistakable. Moments later, a janitor discovered the lifeless body of State Senator Carl Edgerton lying face down on the back steps near the east entrance. He had been shot once through the chest, and the blood pooled silently beneath him in the snow, melting the ice around his body. There was no struggle, no weapon, no sign of anyone fleeing the scene. His briefcase was untouched, and his phone buzzed continuously with morning meeting reminders he would never attend. The police responded swiftly, sealing off the entire Capitol complex as forensic teams combed through every inch of the area. Surveillance footage offered no answers. The cameras near the back steps had gone offline at 6:49 a.m., nearly half an hour before the shooting. Technicians confirmed the system had been tampered with, though no one could determine when or how. Just beneath the senator's leather bag, investigators found something odd: a small typed note on unmarked paper. It contained only one sentence: "This is the beginning of a correction." The message raised more questions than answers. As news of the murder spread, panic settled over the Capitol like a dense fog. Lawmakers arrived in disbelief, their faces pale and shaken. The governor held a press conference by noon, calling it a targeted act of violence but offering few concrete details. Speculation ran wild in the media, with commentators suggesting motives ranging from political revenge to domestic terrorism. Yet no group claimed responsibility. There were no leads, no suspects, and nothing connecting the dots except for that cryptic message. Behind closed doors, some legislators began to quietly wonder if they were safe. Senator Edgerton had his share of enemies, particularly after pushing controversial budget cuts and opposing new ethics reforms. But he was also a long-serving official, seen as practical rather than ideological. That made his murder even more baffling. It wasn't just a loss, it felt like a warning. The Capitol, once a symbol of order and governance, now felt exposed and vulnerable. And deep within its halls, an invisible threat had taken root. 5 days after the murder of Senator Carl Edgerton, tragedy struck again. This time, the target was Representative Leah Moore, a well-known and vocal legislator from the Twin Cities. Her body was discovered in the kitchen of her Minneapolis home by a neighbor who had come by to return a borrowed snowblower. Moore had been shot twice, once in the abdomen and once in the chest. The scene was eerily clean. No signs of forced entry, no overturned furniture, and nothing missing from the house. Once again, the killer left a typed note near the body. It was taped to her refrigerator with a single sentence: "Truth has a price." The pattern was unmistakable. 2 respected lawmakers killed within a week, both of them shot with precision and left with ominous messages. The public reeled as news of the second assassination broke. Fear turned into outrage, and questions erupted at every level of government. The police, overwhelmed and under pressure, began to treat the incidents as part of a coordinated attack. It was no longer just murder, it was political violence unfolding in real time. Moore had been a controversial figure in recent months. Alongside Senator Edgerton, she had helped stall a sweeping lobbying reform bill that many claimed would have exposed years of unethical influence in state politics. The move had sparked protests, editorials, and online campaigns against both legislators. Investigators began reviewing footage from public rallies, angry emails, and threats posted on forums. Still, nothing pointed to a specific suspect. The shooter had managed to evade security systems, leave no forensic evidence, and disappear without a trace twice. Behind the scenes, panic grew among the remaining legislators. Emergency security briefings were held. Some lawmakers brought in private protection or avoided public appearances altogether. Capitol Police increased their presence, but paranoia seeped into every hallway. Who would be next? Was this the work of a lone vigilante or a calculated group? The FBI officially joined the investigation, treating it as a possible domestic terror case. Intelligence analysts began connecting threads between political activism groups, online forums, and recent legislative votes. A pattern emerged: both victims had played a role in shutting down a bill that aimed to bring transparency to political donations and corporate lobbying. What seemed like routine governance was now potentially the spark for calculated vengeance. And as tensions rose, a chilling realization settled over the Capitol. The killer was watching, and their mission wasn't over. 2 weeks passed without another shooting, but the silence felt more ominous than relief. Lawmakers operated under a constant cloud of anxiety, their routines altered and their families placed under protection. Security measures were tightened further, yet nothing could prevent what came next: not a bullet, but a message. One morning, at precisely 6:03 a.m., dozens of Minnesota legislators received an anonymous email from a heavily encrypted source. The subject line read simply, "He's next." Attached to the email was a photograph of State Senator James Holloway, taken the previous evening as he left a charity dinner in downtown St. Paul. He appeared unaware, smiling slightly, holding his coat over one arm. The message beneath the photo was stark and direct: unless the vote is restored, he will fall. There were no threats, no demands for money, only references to the vote, which investigators quickly linked back to the same lobbying reform bill blocked weeks earlier by the now-dead legislators. Also attached was a short video, a silent compilation of surveillance-style clips. It showed both Edgerton and Moore in the days leading up to their deaths walking to their cars, attending meetings, speaking at press conferences unaware they were being watched. The level of detail was terrifying. Whoever was behind the murders had not only tracked their every move but recorded it meticulously. The implications were staggering. The killer or group behind them had advanced surveillance capabilities, access to secure locations, and a deep understanding of legislative operations. This wasn't a deranged loner acting on impulse. This was methodical, strategic, and deeply rooted in political ideology. Law enforcement agencies worked urgently to track down the source of the threatening email, but it had been sent through multiple international servers using strong encryption. There were very few digital clues, but one small lead pointed to a dark web group called Red Soil. This group had already been watched by federal agents in the past because of its extreme views on government corruption. Until now, they had stayed hidden. The email caused panic among lawmakers. Senator Holloway was immediately given 24-hour protection. Fear spread quickly through the Capitol. No one knew who the next target might be or if security would be enough to stop another attack. The killer had already shown that they could strike suddenly and leave without a trace. The message was clear. This wasn't just about politics. It was about punishment. The key break in the case didn't come from advanced technology. It happened far from Minnesota, in a quiet area of rural Iowa. A state trooper stopped a black sedan with stolen license plates. The man driving the car seemed nervous and gave strange answers. When backup officers searched the trunk, they found blueprints of the Minnesota Capitol, hand-drawn maps of lawmakers' homes, and a stack of fake press IDs. The man was arrested immediately. His name was Trevor Lindholm, a former city council candidate from Duluth. He had disappeared after losing an election 5 years earlier. His campaign had focused on fighting government corruption and promoting transparency. When he lost, most people assumed he gave up. But investigators found out that he had joined online extremist groups that believed political violence was the only way to force change. When police searched Lindholm's laptop, they found encrypted messages between him and someone using the name Aesop. These messages showed that Lindholm wasn't the leader. He followed orders. Aesop was in charge, choosing the targets and planning the attacks. Lindholm had helped by finding weak spots, taking photos, and creating escape routes. He even practiced pretending to be a reporter to blend in at the Capitol. Investigators confirmed that Lindholm had been near both murder scenes before the attacks. He wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but he had helped set up the crimes. That meant others were involved. Red Soil was no longer just an online threat, it was active in the real world. After going through Lindholm's computer, federal agents found more clues: fake payments, server logs, and messages that led them to an office in Duluth. It was supposed to be a political consulting firm. On the surface, it looked normal, but inside, agents found something shocking. Behind a hidden wall in the back of the office, they discovered a secret control room. Computers were still running, showing live camera footage from different parts of St. Paul, including one camera pointed at the Capitol's back entrance. There were notebooks with lawmakers' schedules, police shift details, and personal information about public officials and their families. Burners' phones, prepaid cards, and spy equipment were also found. On one of the laptops, the user was still logged in under the name Aesop. Fingerprints on the laptop matched Alicia Trent, a former government analyst who had been fired 5 years ago for leaking sensitive information about unethical lobbying. Her warnings had been ignored and covered up. After losing her job, she quietly disappeared from public life. But now, investigators saw that she had used her insider knowledge to build a secret group called Red Soil. Trent had spent years gathering people who believed like she did and used her skills to plan and lead the attacks. When agents found her hiding near the Canadian border, she didn't resist. In her confession, she calmly admitted everything. She said she had made a list of 10 lawmakers she believed had blocked justice. Edgerton and Moore were the first. Holloway was supposed to be next, but the email warning had been used to spread fear and chaos. It wasn't a bluff. It was a tactic. The state was left shaken. New laws were passed. Security was strengthened. But the memories of the killings still haunted Minnesota politics. Red Soil was taken down, but its violent message would never be forgotten. It was a harsh reminder of what can happen when political anger turns into deadly action.